Stop right there, Lugo. What it is? You wanna waste him a choice? He turned us into fucking cowards. Enough, Sergeant. No, don't.
Spec Ops is a series of video games that spawned 8 games over 14 years. Most of those are quite obscure. The most popular game of the license is the one we'll talk about today, Spec Ops The Line. So you can forget about all the others, we won't talk about them anymore here. This video will spoil progressively Spec Ops The Line, so if you desire to play it, stop the video and come back later. 6 months prior to the game's events, Dubai suffered the worst series of sandstorms ever recorded in history, leading the politicians and wealthy elite of people to first downplay the situation, before secretly evacuating the city, which left countless of citizens and foreign migrant workers struggling for their life as the desert is starting to overwhelm the city. During that time, Colonel John Conrad, commander of the 33rd Infantry Battalion of the United States Army and renowned hero, was returning home from Afghanistan. Hearing about the news in Dubai, Conrad decided to volunteer the 33rd Battalion to help with the evacuation, defying orders to abandon the city. The 33rd Battalion stood with him. Soon after, the sandstorm worsened and created a storm wall around the city, blocking communication with the outside world. 2 weeks prior to the events of the game, a looped radio signal from Conrad was heard, where he admits that the evacuation was a complete failure and that many died. Following this, the United States of America decided to send an elite 3-man Delta Force team to carry out a reconnaissance mission to confirm if there is any survivors, then immediately radio for extraction once the mission is completed. We'll be playing as Captain Martin Walker, a man very familiar with Conrad, as Conrad saved him back in Kabul, and will be accompanied by First Lieutenant Alfonso Adams and Staff Sergeant John Lugo. The mission is simple enough. Cross the storm wall, locate survivors, leave the city, radio command from outside the storm wall, they send a helicopter to fetch us, and we go back home. Although, while walking toward our objective, we'll soon feel like we are being watched, which will soon turn out to be true. Upon reaching the distress beacon, we'll find the body of a member of the 33rd Battalion that seemingly recently died. No time to mourn him, as 3 armed survivors are now showing up, and do not seem to be too happy seeing us, leaving no other choices than to bury them under the sand. What ensues is more survivors coming up, leading to a gunfight where we're forced to kill them all in self-defense. Upon killing the last one of them, we'll hear an explosion, and receive a distress call from Alpha Patrol that mentions that they are under attack and that the insurgents have them surrounded. It seems that those insurgents are the same people that just attacked us. They ask for immediate assistance. It is pretty obvious by the look of it that Alpha Patrol will not last very long, as during that call, one of their men is shot down. Since they aren't very far away from our position, Walker decides to help them. The man that was previously shot down is dead. There is 4 men left, but they soon will be out of ammunition. If we act, we have to do it quickly. They are currently hiding in the fuselage of a crashed plane. The insurgents are getting closer. As Walker enters the plane, one member of Alpha Patrol is shot down. That's 3 men left, at most. The plane is crawling with insurgents, and hopes to find anybody alive are getting slimmer with each passing seconds. Upon reaching the cockpit, 2 members of Alpha Patrol are taken hostage. One of them is immediately executed, but there is still time to save the other one. There is 4 insurgents, and it's bullet time. Lugo is taking down their leader, while Walker will take down the 3 others. Sadly, the last hostage won't make it, and die a few moments after telling us that the last remaining member of his squad, called McPherson, was taken to the nest, and that we have to find him. Those aren't our orders, but can we really leave people to die? Conrad would have done the same. Multiple tracks are headed north, so that's where the nest should be, and also where we're going.
My name is John Conrad, commander of the 33rd Battalion, husband of Elizabeth, and father of Jeremy. If you are reading this, the desertion of the 33rd is undoubtedly no longer a secret. I have failed my mission. Worse, I have failed my men. If any of them be found alive, let it be known that they are innocent. As their commander, I forced them under extreme duress to stay in Dubai. To disregard their orders, I alone am to blame.
On our way to the nest, we'll encounter many enemies, and gunfight will start to become more and more prominent. So maybe it is a good time to start talking about the gameplay. As you probably noticed, Spec Ops The Line is a third-person cover shooter, with the specificity of having 2 squad members that follow your orders and can help you in the most dire situations, or make them worse, when you're playing on the highest difficulty setting. But you won't see that in this video, as I've only recorded gameplay footage in Combat Ops difficulty, which could also be called normal difficulty. Make them worse, because when any of them is knocked out, you'll be having around a minute to join them to heal them. And often, it is a difficult task if you're being pinned down by the enemies. Luckily, you can order your second squad member to do it too, unless both of them are down, obviously. From my experience, there is 1 or 2 areas in the game where characters tend to always be going down due to poor positioning, and since it is a cover-based shooter, running in the middle of the fight to rescue them will more often than not get you killed, and you won't have the same luck as them. Once you're down, is back to the checkpoint. During the course of our playthrough, there will be a bunch of different weapons that we will be required to use, from pistols to rocket launcher, with a bunch of rifles and shotguns. There are a few different weapons in the game, I'd say around a dozen. Each of them play differently. Most of them also have a special ability. For example, the ability to wear a silencer, 2 different ways to fire, a grenade launcher attached, or for some of them, simply nothing. It is impossible to keep the same weapon in the entirety of the game, due to ammunition shortage. Most of the time you'll be encouraged to pick up weapons on dead bodies to use them, or sometimes, some story events will simply strip you of every single weapon you own, anyway. One mechanic allows to recover ammunitions no matter the weapon you're using, but it requires a more aggressive playstyle that will not always be suitable for every situation. Some fatally wounded enemies lay on the floor for several seconds before dying. We'll have the possibility to finish them off, and by doing so, we'll receive a certain amount of ammunition for both our weapons, but finishing them off requires you to come close to them, and also won't grant you any invulnerability frame. It is a mechanic better used on the few survivors of a long gunfight. Doing it while in combat will lock you in an animation that could very well kill you, or put you in a significant disadvantage, as the enemies tend to be aggressive, and the health system is the same as what a license like Call of Duty is using. Therefore, you need to hide for a few seconds to see your health rise again. Spec Ops is also not void of a furtivity mechanic, but it is so gimmicky that we could very well not talk about it. Let's just say that a few dozen of enemies in the game will be stealthily killable, but even if you succeed to kill them without any noise, the next ones will spot you and a gunfight will ensue. Like most military shooters, there is also grenades, 3 different types to be precise: frag, sticky, and flashbang. Flashbang and frag are pretty basic stuff. I don't think they need any explanation. As for the sticky, it sticks to enemies on surface. If you are able to land it on an enemy, he'll run toward other enemies in hope that they'll help him, killing them all in the process. You'll probably notice here that if you throw grenades in the sand, it forms a cloud and reduce your visibility. Well, there is a few ways that you can interact with the environment. That's one. Another very common way is to destroy glass to bury your enemies under the sand or to make them fall. Our 2 squad members sometimes also use grenades, but it isn't really possible to tell them to do it on a regular basis. They sometimes throw frag grenades when they feel like it, and sometimes, when pinned down, you'll have the possibility to ask them to throw a flashbang. Every grenade are useful in their own right. You can carry up to 3 grenades of each type. You see, Spec Ops The Line doesn't particularly have the best gameplay ever made. It also has weird controls, at least on PC. You'll use the spacebar to run and hide behind covers, and shift to vault on top of obstacles. It took me a while to get used to that, and it is really clunky. It also becomes relatively hard later on, even on the normal difficulty, as the enemies can really take us down in a few shots. Furthermore, we'll be alone in a few parts of the game, which will remove some of our safest options and make the game slightly harder. That's not to say that Spec Ops The Line has a bad gameplay, as it does have a lot of great ideas and does what is needed to do really well. Let's just say that it is clunky and not as user-friendly as what you will play nowadays. Now back to the story. Back in chapter 1 we were heading to the nest. The entirety of the chapter 2 is us fighting our way to the nest against insurgents. We also briefly hear the radio man for the first time, but we'll talk about him later on. Chapter 3 begins with the insurgents cornering us, but there isn't really anything worthwhile to talk about, outside of the sunlight that bother us when we're trying to aim at them. Another good use of the environment. Soon after the gunfight is over, the insurgent will drop C4 on us. Time to flee. A few minutes after that, we'll see an insurgent talk with an American soldier, and seemingly take order from him, which is quite surprising, since right now we have only clues about the 33rd Regiment being hunted down by insurgents, but nothing led us to believe that the insurgents themselves had American supervisors. Another gunfight, a sandstorm, and it is the end of chapter 3. Chapter 4 begins as we find shelter from the sandstorm in a basement that will soon reveal to be full of dead bodies. American soldiers' dead bodies, to be more precise. By the way they are lined up, it is obvious they were not killed in battle, but executed. We'll soon meet again our American friend that supervised the insurgents. His name is Agent Castavin, and he's from the CIA. We'll find him busy torturing Lieutenant McPherson of the 33rd Regiment in order to obtain information about a water depot. We also learn two other things. Apparently, the 33rd went rogue, and the CIA is responsible for the civilians' uprising against the 33rd. Just as Agent Castavin is about to finish off McPherson, Walker's scream distracts him just long enough for McPherson to take a hold of the gun and execute the CIA agent. We are now faced with two choices. McPherson doesn't seem to believe us, and while he's putting his hands in the air in a sign of surrender, he is obviously trying to escape us by reaching the ropes behind him. We can either shoot him or let him go. For this very video, we'll decide to let him go. But I can tell you right now that this choice won't change the outcome of what's about to happen. We'll then decide after checking the body of that CIA agent to follow McPherson down to what seemed to have been the CIA safe house. After looking around the safe house, we'll take a turn to go face to face with McPherson and 3 members of his squad. And while we're on the same side, this situation is actually pretty bad, because McPherson do not trust us, and in this situation where we come face to face with one another in a small corridor, the first one to fire is gonna live. McPherson tries, but Walker is definitely faster than him, and what ensues is the death of 4 men, all of the same side. Now things start to be a little bit different. We were killing insurgents, but we've just killed American soldiers. This situation is getting worse. No time to get depressed over what happened, as behind the door leading out of the CIA safe house, we'll find soldiers running after civilians. Those soldiers will spot us and mistake us for CIA agents. It's kill or be killed, and we'll have no other choices than to kill the entirety of that squadron. It is now obvious to Walker that the 33rd has gone rogue, and that Conrad will never do such things. We have to find him and make it all clear. Soon after, we'll find a place where civilians are gathered, probably for executions. The 33rd Regiment has gone rogue, and therefore we must save those civilians, and it passes by killing every single soldier that stands against us, American or not. After this bloodbath and the chaos that we've caused, the civilians, now free, want us gone. What's the plan? The 33rd went to war against itself. Whichever side won decided to stay and take over Dubai. The CIA is trying to clean up the mess. If we find the CIA, we find Conrad. That's our plan. And we won't have to wait for long, as a few minutes later, we'll find a communication from Lieutenant Daniels, or to be more precise, the people torturing him. Daniels pretend to be here looking for survivors, and to be from the CIA. We're able to trace the signal's origin, and there is no doubt that it is a trap designed for the other CIA members left. But we have no other choice than to go there. Daniels might be the only person to help us find out what is happening in this city.
In old horror movies, they always use silver to kill the monster. Stakes, crosses, bullets, didn't matter. So long as it was silver. In Dubai, these hostiles are using silver bullets to kill soldiers. Guess that makes us monsters. Seems they're melting down everything they can get their hands on. Cufflinks, jewelry, flatware. Reeks of desperation, but it's smart. In Dubai, a bullet's worth more than a necklace. It's kind of funny when you think about it. At least a soldier's life doesn't come cheap.
This is where chapter 5 begins. I have skipped through all the bloodbath because, well, it's a game after all, and there has to be gameplay. Or at least it is what the studio went with as a way to structure their game, a bit in a similar way to what Uncharted does, if you're familiar with it. Killing American soldiers became somewhat of a normal thing to do now. Since most of that chapter is low on interesting things to talk about, I feel it is a good time to talk about something else, such as the sound design of the game, that is obviously great, but I do not know a single great game that doesn't have a good sound design to begin with. Everything from reloading the guns to firing them is well made. Just listen to that sniper rifle. A loud noise, followed by a long silence. Satisfying, isn't it? Now, I'm not necessarily a huge fan of snipers, but I can appreciate the beauty of its sound. The sound design isn't only about beauty though, it is also about giving you informations. When the music is going strong, enemies are close. When finally it is becoming more tame, you can lower your guard a bit.
Hostile down.
Sometime, you'll hear a wounded enemy whimper.
It's gotta be the guy on the radio. Shit. You think? It would explain why Dubai's gone back.
It's a way the game tells you that you can execute him for more ammunitions. It's all made to give you subtle informations. The soundtrack in itself is also remarkably good. But you already probably noticed, as I'm solely using tracks from this game in this video. Music is also the reason this game ended up being delisted, and I hope that people that will play this game in the future won't have to settle for an inferior version with a cheap soundtrack, as it will probably ruin a few key parts of the game and make it harder for people to enjoy the transitions between the chapters. Because outside of being good, the music and the overall sound design, most notably the voice acting, also become much darker as the game continues. But we'll see that a little later, as for now we're about to be done with chapter 5. And after a fall that will leave anyone crippled and helpless at best, we are now separated from our two partners, only equipped with a Desert Eagle and 5 bullets. And what's best, enemies are getting closer to our position. This is where chapter 6 starts, one of the areas of the game that people attempting a run in the hardest difficulty hate the most, as you'll be alone for several minutes against a few enemies in an open space where it is easy to be flanked. Here we'll have to survive while moving, as 5 bullets of Desert Eagle can only get us so far, while waiting for Lugo and Adams to join us to get out of this hellhole. Once regrouped with our 2 buddies, we'll have to dig ourselves a way to the next area, and we'll do that the only manner we know, by killing soldiers. Fast forwards a few more deaths in Dubai, we'll blow up a door leading to a pit, an area full of bodies in decomposition. Some of them seem to be from the 33rd. Our best guess right now is that there was a mutiny in the 33rd and that they turned on each other's. We won't have to wait for long to find what we came here to search for. Agent Daniels is here, but unfortunately he seems to be dead since a while, immolated by his torturers, and as we guessed, it was indeed a trap set up for Agent Gould, another CIA agent. After talking with the radio man, it seems that he doesn't know who we are, but that's all the same for him, as he then called for the soldiers of the 33rd to ambush us. Lucky for us, Gould was indeed baited by that trap. He then threw a grenade to help us before fleeing. Unlike the radio man, Gould knows who we are. How? He doesn't tell us. We have to find him, but before that we are now left with no other choice but to kill those men of the 33rd as they block our way. As we continue on our way, the radio man mentioned a big surprise that we won't take a long time to see. A helicopter chasing and firing its Gatling at us. All of this with the theme Ride of the Valkyrie, by not only Wagner, but also the radio man that sang in rhythm with the song. This is obviously a huge reference to Apocalypse Now, when the helicopters are attacking a Vietnamese village with the same track running. It isn't the only reference, as Spec Ops The Line is heavily inspired by that movie, but we'll talk about that a bit later. We still have a bit of time left until the end. We're only chapter 6, and there is 15 chapters in total. Now back to the problem at hand. The helicopter, missing to kill us by a bit, destroyed the building and wounded Adams on the lower part of the leg. Luckily, he can walk. But that's gonna hurt, as he refused to take morphine. Which makes sense, considering that we are in a life or death situation, and we wouldn't want him to be too slow on the trigger. Things are now obvious, we're in the middle of a war zone, and we cannot afford to go back. Gould is our only chance to make things right. Working with the CIA does not make us too happy, but the 33rd tried to kill us, while Gould risks his life to save us. There is no choice. It's not only about Conrad anymore. We gotta do what's right. After finding a door leading us out of those ruins, we now start chapter 7.
Thought I'd make it the whole way without screaming. Hacked my way through the sandboarding. Even bit my tongue when they brought out the knives. But the fire... Damn it. I screamed like you wouldn't believe. I'm disappointed. But at least now I understand the breaking. Once my flesh started melting, I'd have thrown my own mother under a bus just to make it stop. Every insurgent brought before me will know the same pain. And when they break, we will be like brothers, having stared down death and flinched.
Chapter 7 is another one of those chapters where gunfights are placed above the story, at least early on, so we'll talk about the content of the game this time. There is 3 different game modes. Campaign, which is the primary reason you'll play the game, if you ever are able to purchase it again. It is pretty short, I believe you can see the end of it in around 5 hours. There is a few collectibles called Intel to find that help understand better the story. You already heard a few of them in this video. Multiplayer, which follow the same formula as the Call of Duty games released around the same era, with obviously less features and played in a third-person view. For example, there is the possibility to customize your weapon, pick up a perk, and overall customize everything how you want it to be. There is also a leveling system. Once you hit max level, you can re-enlist to reset your level back to 1 and have access to other upgrades. Basically very similarly to the prestige mechanic of Call of Duty, if not the exact same thing. Now, what there isn't is the kill streak bonus, such as the atomic bombs, the helicopters, all of those things. And it does make sense, since it is a game with a huge focus on its campaign, and that I guess only added multiplayer because the publisher asked them to do it. They probably didn't have the time to add this system, or thought that since the fight takes place in Dubai, none would have access to this kind of weaponry anyway. Obviously, there is also multiple game modes, deathmatch, team deathmatch, capture the flag, and a few others, all of those available on 6 different maps. Spec Ops The Line doesn't seem like a game suited for PvP, as most of the mechanics present in the campaign aren't featured in this game mode, but since there is still a small community of players playing the game to this day on PC, it will be hard to call it uninteresting. And finally, the last game mode is cooperative, which sounds good on paper, but that I found quickly repetitive and to be the worst out of the 3 game modes. That game mode allows for players to team play with someone else on a few different maps, each having their own objectives. Those are based on 4 different passages of the story mode, but you won't be able to play the story mode itself in co-op. and that's better this way. Not every game is meant to be played in co-op, especially not this one, as it will reduce the focus on the narrative of the game, which is its strongest point, and not its gameplay. Spec Ops The Line might seem like a random shooter so far, but it won't stay that way and will soon come to the second phase of the game. Now back to Chapter 7. We shot down a few more soldiers, seen a lot of them hung on street lamps, and witnessed another mass grave full of rotting corpses. We are now progressing through the streets, witnessing the use of white phosphorus on insurgents by the 33rd. Toward the end of that street, we finally see a small squad of soldiers coming to execute the remaining survivors and putting them out of their misery. We count 3 of them. 2 are more or less normal foot soldiers, but the last one is a juggernaut, some kind of heavily armored soldier with a Gatling. Those can be dangerous if they were to catch us by surprise. We do the same thing they came here to do, and get rid of them. A sticky grenade on the juggernaut, plus a few bullets should do the trick. Easier than expected. It's all about having the surprise element. We are now out of the streets and into a building. We finally found Gould, but he isn't alone. He's taken hostage and tortured by what seems like a member of the 33rd that think that Gould attacked the gate head-on to act as distraction for Agent Riggs, another CIA agent. Obviously, they want to know where Riggs is. Gould's tormentor is trying to torture a civilian to no avail. Gould doesn't seem to want to talk. He then executes her and asks his men to take care of the remaining civilians left. We are now faced with a decision. Do we save those civilians, or do we save Gould? Gould being too important to find the truth, we cannot risk letting him die. That is your choice. Which leads to another gunfight. Once all of the enemies bite the dust, we find Gould not breathing anymore. Lugo eventually tried to reanimate him, but to no avail. All we are left with is many questions, and a plan written on paper that Gould thought was worth dying for. Once again, the choice here doesn't matter much. Gould is impossible to save, the only thing you can save is the civilians. But those aren't important on the grand scheme of things, at least related to our objective. We have no other choice than to continue. Gould was the only person to know what was happening, and that plan might lead us to the truth. On the way, Lugo and Adams start arguing, which results in Adams punching Lugo as he loses temper. The 2 men eventually end up making peace, as Walker finally interrupts them. But it is obvious that this situation isn't easy on their mind. We are now on our way to the gate described on Gould's plan, and that puts us on Chapter 8.
Found a doll in the OZ. No way it's left over from the old days. Diamond earrings for eyes, silk for a dress. This was made after the storm wall fell. That means children, families. I'm starting to wonder about our enemy. We're not that far from Conrad's failed evac. Could these be the survivors? Are we killing the people we came here to save? I'm not going to tell Adams or Lugo. Shit's hot enough as it is. They don't need this weighing on them too. Anyone shooting at us is an enemy, whether they got families or not.
On our way to that gate, we hear once more the radio man, gloating about the death of Agent Gould, wishing the same to Riggs and us. That radio man is sure talking a lot. We'll see if he talks as much once we meet, but for now, we finally reach the gate. We ask Adams to take care of the lockout, to realize that the gate is guarded by what you could easily call an army. Now, we are not totally unlucky. You might wonder what that thing is. It's very simple. A cannon to throw white phosphorus. We've had a very clear view on what white phosphorus do to people a few minutes ago. And it isn't the prettiest sight. Now, obviously, we are not using this because we want to, but facing an army is impossible, and the 33rd showed us that it is either us or them. There is no other choices. We'll aim, Lugo and Adams will take care of firing.
Okay, targeting unlocked. Ready? Light 'em
They're all dead. Just the silence and the mechanical sound of the cannon. Nothing else.
It's over. Right, Walker. Okay. We're done. This was too much. Stop talking.
What'd you just say?
Means the smoke is toxic. Keep your mouth shut.
Yeah, right.
Let's just keep moving. Come on, man. There's nothing we can do. Come on. He's already dead. You brought this on yourself.
We were helping.
What? Oh no.
Are those civilians? Where'd they come from? There's no camp here.
They took him from the nest.
That hotel back at the storm wall? No, those can't be the civvies that got kidnapped. It's not possible.
Yeah, it is. That's why Gould stormed this place. He didn't want the gate. He was trying to rescue his people.
This is your fault, goddammit! Stop right there, Hugo. What it is, you wanted we used to have a choice. He turned us into fucking cowards enough, Sergeant. No,
We need to keep moving.
What?
Reinforcements will be here any second. We need to keep moving.
But Walker, you're not even...
I'm gonna make these bastards pay for what they've done. Now, are you with me or not?
We have to keep moving before reinforcements arrive. We are now entering the second phase of the game. We are done being hero, even though we still wish we could be. We've killed more people than we could ever save. Still, we gotta push forward and make them pay for what they've done. There is still a few men of the 33rd ahead of us. They're calling us murderers, but they won't hold us back. We're taking that gate. After fighting our way to the gate and still killing more soldiers, we reach an outpost that we end up searching for clues to know what's happening here. Nothing big on the first floor, but the second floor is different. 5 bodies burned by white phosphorus. They were Conrad's command team. Walker mentioned that he knew them, and this is when, for the first time, we'll hear Conrad talk to us through a radio that we find in that room. Those men led a mutiny against Conrad. Their fate tells how that ended up for them. We now understand that the radio man is simply a lackey, and that it is Conrad that is behind the 33rd. And here, with that, the Chapter 9 finally starts.
You know that one girl? The girl whose face you cut out of old photographs? Well, to Conrad, America was that girl. 50 stars, 50 states, the whole Union, blacked out. Don't know why he did it. Maybe it was out of anger or a misguided attempt to create a symbol. Whatever the sentiment, his command team clearly disagreed. Jeff Bowles, Ken Tebby, David Long. They stood up to their commander, their friend. And in return, he tied them hand and foot and burnt them alive. Makes you wonder what he'd do to someone he hated.
We've got no other choices than to play along and follow the traces of Conrad. We'll soon be faced with a choice. Two men are hanging on a bridge with a rope around their hands, a group of snipers aiming at them. Those snipers aren't there for us. On the right, there is a civilian. He stole water, which is considered a capital offense in Dubai under martial law. On the left, there is a soldier that was sent to apprehend him, succeeding, but killing the man's whole family in the process. The result is that 5 innocent people died because of those two men that couldn't control themselves. Conrad wants us to do justice, which one should live, which one should die. In this case, the civilian will die, and the soldier will live. From now on, Conrad will talk to Walker very often, not always to say useful things. It is gonna be more or less a blame game between them. I'm not gonna mention it every time it happens, but I'd like you to know that this is something that is happening since we've got that radio. Now, back to the task at hand. After making that choice, we'll fall in an ambush and end up fighting in a sandstorm that limits the vision of everybody, which leads to a coverless fight in close range with many enemies wandering around as they seek refuge. We finally end up finding shelter in some kind of silo-looking metal tank, which closed this pretty short chapter.
It's wrong to call it a storm. I've never seen a storm that could blast paint off a car. This is sand, flying through the air at 80 miles an hour. It will shatter glass, tear your flesh, and fill your lungs. Even those of us still alive have been stripped down to our bones. We got nothing but the clothes on our back, man. What water's left, the 33rd has under lock and key. A couple civilians tried to stage a raid on the cantina last night. And the colonel had them round up and shot. I tried to make myself watch, but I couldn't. They were desperate to live, man. But if they'd succeeded, others would have died. I mean, I don't know what it feels like to execute people you swore to protect. But Conrad sure does. And he's not talking to anyone at the moment.
Next is chapter 10. We're out of that silo, and we are now looking for the tallest tower where Conrad could have settled to have a view of the entirety of Dubai. We have two objectives now. First of all, we want to evacuate the city, and secondly, we gotta find Conrad and relieve him of his command. But soon enough, our plans will change, as we find Riggs, another CIA agent, ambushed by the 33rd. Surprisingly enough, consider the previous events, we are able to save Riggs. He then tells us about his plan to cripple the 33rd by taking away their water supply. But that talk will be cut short, as the 33rd attack our position and we have yet again to fight. It won't take long for Riggs to pay us back for saving him.
Right here. You son of a bitch! You're
There will be a few gunfights in quick succession here, and we'll meet the Zulu squad of the 33rd, the final solution to all of the 33rd's problems. They are much tougher than normal soldiers and work better as a team. Luckily, they are only appearing in this chapter, and a few more later on, but they'll be a smaller squad. Outside of the Zulu squad, there is also that sneaky guy that caught me off guard and really did me dirty. This is overall a chapter much more focused on gameplay than narrative. We get to know Riggs, a seasoned veteran that seems to have more than one trick in his bag. It is also one of the longest chapters until now, and probably one of the toughest, as there is a lot of fights where it is easy to die. We finally reach the aquarium, and upon fighting, we get access to the trucks containing all the water of the city. We now have to escape with those trucks. Riggs hands us a grenade launcher. Upon leaving, Conrad tells us that there will be a price to pay for what we did, and that he hopes that we're ready to pay for it. And for sure, things won't go as smoothly as the first part of the operation. To begin with, the civilians are throwing rocks at us, which are mostly harmless. But soon enough, the entire 33rd is out to stop us, and Riggs, seeing that he is about to lose control of the situation, decides to crash the trucks, to prevent anybody from having access to water.
Psychoanalysis indicates that John Conrad may be suffering from early-stage post-traumatic stress disorder, resulting from failed operations in the Afghan conflict. In an individual as accomplished as Conrad, PTSD could manifest as a pronounced tendency towards egomania and calcification of moral certitude. More concerning is the way in which Conrad has been lauded as the greatest military leader since Patton. Conrad has internalized these sentiments, and they may now constitute a crucial component of his psyche. It is believed that as Conrad comes under fire for failures in Afghanistan, he will likely go to extreme lengths to internally fortify belief in his reputation. Conrad will begin looking outward to explain his failures while nursing a growing paranoia toward his superiors. It is unknown how Conrad's declining mental faculties will hold up in the face of another public failure.
In 4 days, this city will begin dying of thirst. Just like Riggs wanted. This is your fault, Walker. You did this, not me.
Chapter 11 starts just after the crash. The entire area is in flame, and the radio man announced to the people of Dubai that there isn't any more water, and that we're responsible for it. Lugo and Adams are also nowhere to be seen. After walking for a little bit, we find Riggs, stuck under a truck. Impossible to get him out, it is much too heavy. He then revealed to us that his plan all along was to get rid of the water, to prevent the whole region from knowing what Conrad did, because if they did, they would declare war on us, and we'd lose. And for that he was ready to kill every living being in Dubai. We now have a choice. Riggs is stuck under that truck. He cannot reach his revolver. We can choose to use the last bullet in the barrel to ease his suffering, or walk away, leaving him to burn in his own mess. For this playthrough will ease his suffering, as I feel there is no need to let him suffer. Death awaits him anyway. Small, uninteresting thing, but if you keep the bullet, you can instead shoot a gazelle with it. Short after, we'll have a communication from Lugo that will be interrupted by the radio man trying to mock us for our behaviors. The 33rd is on its way to attack Lugo and Adams, and we have to help. As soon as we arrive, the situation is critical. Lugo is taken hostage by the 33rd, that is trying to force Adams to surrender. We sneak behind a sniper, and Lugo is safe, but we're separated. And the entirety of this chapter is about helping each other from different positions. Pretty fun to play, but not much to talk about. Pushing our way through the shopping mall, we'll have more dialogues from the radio man. A weird juggernaut that seems like a hallucination.
Shit! Are you kidding me? Son of, I don't need this shit right now! It's still got there. I'm busy! It's pretty heavy over here! I said I'm working on it! Gotcha.
And finally, the later part, where we'll have to cover Lugo and Adams as they join us. On our way out, we'll capture a member of the 33rd called Josh Forbes that will tell us where is the radio man. We'll knock him out and get on our way to the chapter 12.
Okay, Colonel.
Call me John.
Oh, yes, sir. John. Shall we start?
You're not recording this, are you?
What? No. No, of course not.
Good. I don't want... People need to hear my words, not my voice.
I totally understand.
Yes, I think you do. You've been a friend these past months. It has been helpful having someone who just listens.
That's very nice of you to say, sir.
What are you doing?
Oh, I'm sorry. This pen doesn't work. I gotta get another one.
We'll be going on rooftops to find our friend the radio man. We'll have to fight through rooms of enemies, clean a sniper nest, and finally take a zip line.
Walker! What? Damn it, Walker! No!
Walker seemed to lose it more and more. Soon enough, we see that tower, and as predicted, it is heavily protected. We got to force our way through to the Radio Man, which ended up being easier than anticipated.
Hey guys! like that's a real gun. I mean, come on.
Clock's ticking, Lugo.
Yeah, I'm on it. Stack's custom, so I'm gonna need a minute.
What's that sound? Those voices?
Easy there, G.I. Joe. That's just a cloud echo. We hear that shit all the time.
A what?
It's a signal bouncing off the storm.
Hey now, check out the Whiz Kid.
That was textbook. You're the guy who built a citywide broadcast system with spare parts. That's impressive.
Oh, well, you know. You said it, not me.
Like, I see where you boosted the transmitter, but how far does this thing really go?
To infinity and beyond! Or the storm wall. Same difference.
Now you're just fucking with me.
Oh, ye of little faith. You are live and on the air, my good man. Give it a shot.
Wow, that was easier than I expected. Thanks. Get the fuck off me, man!
Have you lost your fucking mind?
Are you really this fucking naive? He kept the 33rd on our ass this whole time. He wasn't gonna let us just walk out of here. I did what was necessary.
You don't get to make that call.
Well, fuck you. I just did.
That's enough! We'll deal with this later. To anyone who can hear me, I'm the commander of an American evacuation force. We're here to rescue you. But first, the 33rd will pay for what they've done.
I'm disappointed in you, Walker. No one leaves Dubai. I tried. 1,300 men, women, children dead because of my arrogance. And now you want to finish off the rest? If you will not learn from my mistakes, then there's nothing more I can do. Your butcher's bill is high enough. Goodbye, Captain.
What's gonna be tougher is to get out of there alive. Helicopters are dropping units on the ground to storm us, and it seems that we'll have to kill our way through one of those helicopters to be able to escape this mess. Lugo remains behind to cover us, while we push forward. What awaits us are a few remnants of the Zulu squad, coupled with some soldiers of the 33rd. With Lugo sniping cover, we are finally able to make it to the helicopter. It's now his turn to join us, and with the Gatling gun of the helicopter, things go rather smoothly. It's now time to destroy this tower and leave. On our way out, we'll be chased by many helicopters, which will end with us crashing and being separated. And that's how chapter 13 starts.
These people have seen the end of the world. No food, no water, no hope. Friends dead, family butchered. They live in hell, and yet they still take time to smell the dying roses. I get why the Colonel does what he does. But if these people can still muster enough soul to create art, maybe there's more than he sees. I've been thinking a lot about Murrow, broadcasting out of Blitz, London. He helped people. He showed him something that the Nazis couldn't flatten. That truck out front has an own CB. If just maybe I could put my hands on some speakers, wouldn't that be something?
Walker? Captain Walker, can you hear me?
Colonel?
Open your eyes, Walker. I need you to see what you've done. Dubai should have died long ago. We were ordered to abandon these people. Instead, we chose damnation. Not all of us.
What? Who's there?
One of your victims. The one who was just following.
You gave us no choice.
There was always a choice. You just fucked it up.
We tried to save you.
Deep down, you knew we all had to die.
This wasn't my fault.
Captain.
Lugo.
Help.
There were over 5,000 people alive in Dubai the day before you arrived. How many are alive today, I wonder? How many will be alive tomorrow? I thought my duty was to protect this city from the storms. I was wrong. I have to protect it from you.
After waking up in the sand, close to boat's wreckage, Adams contacts us. But none of us has any information regarding Lugo's whereabouts. Adams tells us about his position, but we're not the only one closing in on him, as he is close to the crash site of the helicopter, and the smoke attracts all the hostile in the area. We have to join him and help him get rid of them. Once that is done, we now need to find Lugo, and it won't take long to hear a communication from him. He's pinned down, close to the 33rd, without any weapon and a broken arm. We need to hurry, but more enemies are on the way. Upon dealing with those enemies, we get another communication from Lugo. He's in a yacht, surrounded by the 33rd, trying to hide. We're trying to get to him, but another patrol is on its way to us, and we have to fight once more. Following all the fights, Lugo has to flee further away from the 33rd and hide in a nearby refugee camp.
Not sure he's gonna pull through this.
It's a fucking broken arm. We both lived through worse.
You know damn well it's not what I'm talking about.
There's something on your mind. Why don't you say it already so we can get back to work?
This whole mission is fucked. We just took out a tower full of American troops.
They didn't leave us any choice.
You didn't leave us any choice. What the fuck happened to us, man?
Nothing. We're fucking soldiers.
Oh, I see. My mistake.
On our way, there will be even more fighting. We're kinda used to it by now. Upon finishing the last one of them, we hear another communication from Lugo, and that one doesn't seem like good news.
Yo, Lugo, you read?
Adams! Adams! Oh shit!
Lugo, what's happening?
Fuck! I need help! They're closing in! Oh shit!
Talk to us, Lugo.
Get the fuck! Just stay the fuck away from me! Get back! Get the fuck back!
Lugo, you still there? Lugo!
Çıkarlarını Ne? Bossa! Bossa ben Amcon! Ben Amcon! You fucking bastards!
Run! Get ready.
The roof! Fuck!
Shoot the roof! Everyone back now! Come on, Lugo. Get your ass up!
You heard him! Back up right now! I said back the fuck up! Hurry up, Walker!
Breathe, Lugo!
They ain't taking a hit!
God damn it, breathe!
How's he doing? Answer me, Walker!
Come on, Lugo!
Is he breathing? Move back, or I will open fire!
Damn it!
These assholes ain't stopping, Walker! They're boxing us in!
Damn it, Lugo!
You better fucking pray he makes it! Let me take him, Walker! Sir, permission to open fire! I need you to give the word!
Damn it.
Walker! Give me the fucking word!
Take him down.
Lugo is dead, and we are now in the third phase of the game, for the two last remaining chapters. Kill everything that moves. We are now closing in on Conrad's headquarters. We've left the desert to now fight in the middle of the city, trying to cross a bridge to reach that tower, where Conrad is waiting for us.
To my men, I don't need to remind you of the events which have led us here. We are each branded by our actions, for good or ill. Yes, there is darkness to come, but take heart, for the storm will soon break. There will be chaos in the coming days. As your commander, I know you will persevere. You are the damned 33rd. It's been the greatest honor of my life to serve alongside you. That is why I can trust you with this final order. No matter what, endure. Be ever vigilant. Hold the line.
How we gonna do this?
Kill everything that fucking moves.
Sounds like a plan.
You ready?
Why not? No one lives forever.
Sniper! End him! Sure, whatever. That's what I'm talking about. Watch your ass! One down! Damn it!
Hold that Delta beach like gate! Light them up, now!
Upon getting closer to the door, we are met with a mortar that comes close to kill us.
Welcome to Hell, Walker. We've been waiting for you.
To take out that mortar!
Another shot from that mortar and we're fucking dead!
Use that RPG to take it out! I'll keep these guys busy! Reloading!
But that's not all. There is also 2 turrets ready to gun us down, and we have to progress on an open field with very little cover. The toughest part is to get close enough to get rid of those turrets. Once that is done, the rest is easier. We finally are able to get to one of those turrets and use it against them, but there is still a few snipers left to deal with. Everything isn't done yet. Once all is clear, and we're about to cross the door, a Juggernaut comes out, and he looks just like Lugo. Walker is hallucinating once more. Not the right time. We'll quickly deal with him.
I tried to save you! You can't save anyone! I tried! This is all your fault! Yours! Just fucking die!
The only villain here is you, Walker.
They'll be on us soon.
There's only you.
But he isn't the last one, as behind that door there is still a few more men of the 33rd ready to try to stop us. We're so close to meet Conrad, but we are now faced with overwhelming odds. Conrad has us surrounded, with more reinforcements, and a helicopter.
Fuck you! Just shoot me! I'm standing right here! Come on! Shoot me, goddammit! Fucking shoot me!
This is your last chance, Walker. Surrender, or my men will cut you down.
Don't you dare! Well, fuck you then! I didn't come this far to surrender!
It's the only way inside that tower.
The fuck's sake! Give it up! The mission's over! We failed!
Not while I'm still breathing!
Fine! Then keep breathing! Run, motherfucker!
Walker think about surrendering, but Adams didn't come this far to see this happening. Adams push Walker across the sandbags and tell him to run past the bridge to get to that tower, while he's holding the reinforcements. This is where it ends for Adams. We are now all alone, but we've reached that tower.
I'm sorry, Walker. But you knew it would end this way. Your friends dead. The world on fire. And you alone. You're a failure.
I've been forgetting when I am. You should know you're always there. I keep repeating, the next time, next time. You won't. I hate this lie the most. Mostly I just hate the want.
This is how chapter 15 starts, and where our journey ends.
Squadron, J-Heck!
Captain Walker, we're all that's left of the damn 33rd. We surrender, sir. Dubai is yours.
Where is Conrad?
Where he's always been. Upstairs, waiting for you.
Well done, Walker. You've done what the storm could not. Destroyed the damn 33rd. Do you feel like a hero yet? Please, come in. Now that you're here, I want to ask you a question. What did you think when you arrived in Dubai? When you'd seen what I had done? Did you think it the work of a madman?
Yeah. I thought you'd lost your goddamn mind. Or I hope that's what happened.
Oh yes, that would have made things easier. But I wasn't that lucky.
You sure about that?
I assure you, I'm as sane as you are, Captain.
No matter how hard I tried, I never could escape the reality of what happened here. That was my downfall. There, finished. I hope you like it.
What the hell is going on?
Your eyes are opening for the first time. It hurts, doesn't it? Go on. What do you think?
You did this.
No, you did. Your orders killed 47 innocent people. Someone has to pay for your crimes, Walker. Who's it gonna be?
John? Is that you?
You tell me.
I'm done playing games, John.
I assure you, this is no game. It seems that reports of my survival have been greatly exaggerated.
This is impossible.
Though I assure you, it is. How? Not how. Why? You were never meant to come here.
We have our orders. Leave the city, radio command from outside the storm wall. They send in the cavalry, we go home.
What happened here was out of my control.
Was it? None of this would have happened if you just stopped.
But on you marched. And for what?
We tried to save you.
You're no savior. Your talents lie elsewhere.
This is your fault, goddammit!
Stop right there, Lugo.
He wouldn't listen!
We didn't have a choice!
He turned us into fucking killers!
This isn't my fault.
It takes a strong man to deny what's right in front of him. And if the truth is undeniable, you create your own.
What the hell happened?
I don't know, he just stopped moving.
Walker, snap out of it!
I get it. We have to choose.
The truth, Walker, is that you're here because you wanted to feel like something you are not. A hero.
Lugo! You left me to die!
I'm here because you can't accept what you've done. It broke you.
Colonel? Colonel, please.
What's going on, Walker?
It's Conrad. He did it. All of it.
You needed someone to blame, so you cast it on me. A dead man. I know the truth is hard to hear, Walker, but it's time. You're all that's left, and we can't live this lie forever. I'm going to count to 5, then I'm pulling the trigger.
You're not real. This is all in my head.
Are you sure? Maybe it's in mine. What?
No. Everything. All this. It was your fault.
That's what you believe, then shoot me. 2.
I didn't mean to hurt anybody.
No one ever does, Walker. 3. 4. It takes a strong man to deny what's in front of it.
Stronger than you were.
Whatever you say, Walker. No matter what happens next, don't be too hard on yourself. Even now, for all you've done, you can still go home. Lucky you.
What now, sir?
Huh?
The men are asking. What do we do now?
We complete our mission.
And what mission would that be, sir?
Just get me a goddamn radio. This is Captain Martin Walker, requesting immediate evacuation of Dubai. Survivors. One too many.
Commander, this is Falcon 1. I think we found him. Captain Walker.
He's armed.
It's okay. Hold your fire.
I don't understand. What's he doing? Look at his eyes. Something's not right.
Captain Walker, we are here to help. But first, I need you to lay down your weapon.
He's not complying.
He's shell-shocked. Give him a second. Just hand me your weapon, Captain.
It's over.
Time to go home.
You know, Captain, we drove through this whole city to find you. We saw things. You don't mind me asking, what was it like? How'd you survive all this?
Who said I did?
Jeremy, someday people will tell you about your father. For that, I'm sorry. I love you.
When did Walker cross the line? When he decided to rescue Alpha Patrol? When he killed the first American soldiers? Or maybe those civilians? There is many different endings in Spec Ops The Line. In none of them Conrad lived, as he was dead before Walker and his squad even set foot in Dubai. Conrad himself was dealing with several mental troubles, due to his implication in numerous wars. In Dubai, his commanding officers turned on him. He couldn't bear it, among all the rest. Walker's problem was that insatiable envy of being a hero. It led him to his downfall. Was Walker a fool? A butcher? Walker simply thought that to be a hero, you need to take the most courageous and reckless decision possible, like Conrad would have done. But he didn't realize that in all those stories, there is more than what is told. I've chosen as an ending for Walker to go back home, with his Medal of Honor, as it is what he wanted the most. Walker ended up a hero, but at what price? Is Walker a bad person in the end? Walker's tale is the tale of a naive American soldier, like so many out there, that simply think that by doing what he's best at, he can change the world. But what if the world changed him first? In Spec Ops, nobody is truly evil. Everyone has their own motive. For example, Riggs, that could be considered as the most evil character in the game, as he doomed all the people of Dubai. He simply did it to protect his country. He wanted to protect the USA, and he died for what he believed was the right thing to do. It is morally questionable, but his goal was to simply put the people that he swore to protect above innocent civilians. Is he really evil? Spec Ops The Line is a game that takes heavy inspiration from Apocalypse Now, that itself takes inspiration from a book called Heart of Darkness from Joseph Conrad. That name rings a bell. Apocalypse Now is a movie that starts like most American war movies, but that evolved to show the other side of war, the atrocities, the uglier things, and to help with that, the movie used colors, very similarly to what Spec Ops The Line does. It all starts orange, and as the chapters continue, the game gets progressively darker to turn into a dark blue that shows hopelessness. It is even more noticeable in Apocalypse Now, as toward the end of the movie, you barely see anything on screen. Those three phases I've mentioned in the video could be related to the state of mind of Walker. At first, he is very calm and composed, like a Delta Force should be. Then, he gets more and more aggressive and violent, as he loses his mind after the event with the civilians.
Here they come! Take cover! Return fire and push forward! They got the high ground! I don't care! We're taking that gate! Drop him!
To finally, before losing Lugo, starting to have no regard at all to human life, and even go as far as telling Adams to kill them in a cold manner.
Take him down.
Walker could never bear to be responsible for those civilians' death, and lost it completely. He started imagining Conrad talking to him, and pushed more and more in order to make things right. But as his hallucination tells him, Walker is very competent at some things, but he isn't a hero, and he should never have attempted to be one. By trying to save everyone, he killed countless of people, and by trying to make things right, he killed even more. Spec Ops The Line is definitely not a perfect game. it has a pretty average gameplay, has some areas that can be a little too hard for no reasons, and is definitely not bug free. But all of that doesn't matter. It's a game that uses its audio, graphics, and story to give the player an experience closer to what a movie could give, while still allowing you some freedom, or in this case, the illusion of freedom, because all of your choices lead you to the same path: destruction.
We need to keep moving.